Good morning, friends. Welcome back to Astrology Today. My name is Mel Rose. Today is Saturday, May 20, 2023. The moon is in Gemini. It's a newly waxing moon in Gemini, which is perfect because Gemini is ruled by Mercury, and Mercury is our planet for thinking, planning, and communicating. And this is the phase, the waxing crescent phase, when we are making the plans that we are going to unfold later on this month. So this is a good time to collaborate. It's a good time to sing and dance and share and express yourself in any way that you like to, especially among friends and loved ones. And you know, just throw out there what you're thinking with other people so that, you know, so that maybe their input can enrich the plans that you're making at this time. Today's the final day of the sun's transit in the land of Taurus. Taurus is an earth sign, and Seven of Pentacles over here. It's also the last day for that. Pentacles represent earth element symbolism in Tarot. So earth element symbolism is about what you have, including your body, including any material resources you possess, and what you're willing to do with it, what kind of work, expenditure, investment of time or expertise you're willing to make to create something that has value for you, that establishes that sense of security for you because you have the material resources that you need, right? So this is the Seven of Coins, and the Seven of Coins the seven is always this place where we're tempted to get a little distracted, right? Like we could go one way or the other. We've worked really hard at this point, you see, to culminate something that's supposed to have value for us. And it's just not there yet. You know, it's like the tomatoes are on the vine and they're looking pretty ripe, but they're really not as ripe as they can get to have their full value. So we don't want to change our mind at this point, okay? We want to stay focused. We want to stay engaged and involved in giving those plants what they need, giving them our love and attention, our expertise, and any material resources they need to come to their full value, so then we can get the value out of them, right? Don't quit. Don't give up. Don't walk away and think you're going to come back and everything will be fine. That's sort of like how the spaghetti gets burned, right? So yes, stay the course, pay attention, be engaged in what it is that you're trying to do. And tomorrow we're going to switch cards. We're going to move on into the swords. We're going to move into Gemini. So it's going to be a swords card. It'll be the Eight of Swords, and that'll be a fun conversation to have for about 10 days. So I'm going to go ahead and shuffle these cards a little bit because I didn't yet, and say the sun is moving into Gemini tomorrow. There's a lot going on with the sun and Mars right now. So there's a lot of fiery energy. There's a lot of initiative. We're thinking about our ambitions. We're thinking about, you know, we have this sort of increased ability to act right now. And we're also trying to sort of stand up for what we believe in while also allowing positive transformation to unfold in our lives. With that said, I got the moon in reverse. Okay. So the moon in reverse. The moon is the mystery. It's really about how you can not know something and you don't even know that you know it, right? And that could be something even within yourself, and that's the idea. The moon is about the inward search. It's about using your intuitions to find your way down the path through life, through uncharted territory. So when we have the moon in reverse, I'm going to say that I think that there's a lack of reflection on ourselves, okay? We might be sort of deceiving ourselves. We might be a little bit confused about how we feel about something, or confused about something that has happened that's, you know, that like sometimes what I'm getting from this is like, I thought I would be happy with this, but I'm not, and I don't understand why, you know? So there's that, there's some fear in there that comes along with just not really understanding, you know, what our responses are to things, not really understanding, you know, why it is that we feel certain ways about things, or not understanding why intuitively we're getting information that that doesn't suit us, that doesn't feel good to us, that we don't really want to, you know, have to use in our lives. So wow, the moon and the moon always hits me a little bit hard. It's a little bit Like, okay, it's time to look within. It's time to take that deep dive. And I think that's the guidance one way or the other is, if you are resisting, self-reflection because, people resist self-reflection, and here's why. We don't want to learn things about ourselves that we don't like to think about. We don't like to address the parts of ourselves that we feel embarrassed or sad about. So, everybody has these sort of trifling tendencies from time to time. Everybody, tells a lie or does something dishonest from time to time. And when you come back around to it, when you have to reflect on yourself and your actions, sometimes the temptation in that reflection is just to like, okay, yes, I admit it. I'm a bad person. I feel terrible. Now I feel like crap. Now, thanks reflection, thanks moon card, right? But that's not the point. That's not the point of reflecting on those things about ourselves that we're not proud of. The point of reflecting on those things is so that we can forgive ourselves for the negative self-judgment that comes along necessarily with the experiences that we have, right? So, we have an experience of ourselves that we're not proud of. And when we reflect on it, there's, like I said, there's a temptation to just feel like crap about it. But really the idea is that you have a conversation with yourself at that time, right? We know where these feelings come from. We know what instances, what events, what circumstances they arise from. And when they come up, we can beat up on ourselves, or we can try to push it back and not think about it, which is the same thing as beating up on yourself, because you're still holding on to this negative idea of how you are, who you are, what you did, when really you can look back on yourself and say, well, that was naive. That was ill-informed, that was unkind, and I am not proud of it. But I can, forgive myself for being a human being, and a human being who's occasionally naive or, uncalled for or unkind. I can forgive myself for not always being being a person who knows how to act in a situation, right? So that's what that's bringing up for me. And that might be personal, but if it's personal for me, it's probably personal for a lot of people, right? I am no exception to the rule. And that's something that I want you to get from this as well. Like, when you reflect on your stuff, and you're thinking especially about the parts of yourself that you're not proud of, the parts that got angry, the parts that acted unkind or just silly or awkward, or, you spoke up at the wrong time, you showed up in the wrong place at the wrong time, right? You can, what was I just saying? Okay, now I know what I was saying. You can look back on those and, not just forgive yourself for being naive, and not just forgive yourself for being human, because that's true, but, along the lines of forgiving yourself because you know that you're human, realize you're not an exception to the rule. Everybody does awkward things, everybody does unkind things, everybody embarrasses themselves at one point or another. That's part of the human condition, okay? And if you're expecting perfection from yourself, if you're expecting that there's any point in your life when you're gonna walk through the world so lightly and so smoothly that you make no mistakes and you have nothing to feel regret about, then you would be fooling yourself. Okay, so as human beings, as a human collective, and also just on the individual level, it helps to remember that you're only human when you are reflecting on the things that you fear to reflect on, right? When you are putting up a barrier against seeing some of the behaviors or ways of being that you have that are detrimental, right? When we put up that barrier, when we shield ourselves against negative emotions about ourselves because we think that that just makes us a bad person, then we're really shielding ourselves from identifying ourselves as part of a collective, as just a human being, and holding ourselves to an impossible standard is not going to help us at all. Okay, don't hold yourself to an impossible standard. Hold yourself to a human standard. All right, and humans, right? Yourself and other people. So The moon on the page today, let's see. I mean, this really brings me back to the Mars and Pluto conflict right now. And, you know, I had been characterizing this as a very internal struggle, and that's what this card seems to say, is that we're struggling with ourselves a lot. We're struggling with, you know, wanting to get better, wanting to be better, wanting to do better than we have done before. But really, we don't get to get better, be better, do better than we have done before until we reflect on what has already come to pass, right? So, you know, Pluto spends half the year retrograde, half the year you know, direct. You probably don't often notice how Pluto is working in your life because it moves so slowly, and it just brings us through highs and lows of experience that gradually, hopefully over time, if we're accepting changes as they come up, then we are transformed, right? So when Pluto is retrograde for the 6 months of the year, which is now through, I think, October 11, you know, we just want to remember that you know, it's important. It pays actually to reflect on yourself, to reflect on the transformations that you've been through. And some of those transformations are sort of predicated by, you know, things we've done that we would rather not repeat doing, right? So, you know, reflecting on the transformations we've been through, reflecting even on the hard parts and the parts where we were not our best selves. This is important in our ability to continue to make progress as human beings, to continue to, you know, to sort of drive forward with our sense of purpose, working on the things that we're here to work on and achieve in this life, but to do it in a conscious way, to do it in a way that's not fearful, that's not restrictive, that's not keeping us from you know, reflecting on ourselves. It's not keeping us from being forgiving of ourselves and also of other people. Right. So let's put that together with the Seven of Pentacles here. And what we see is, okay, so we're in this waiting period. We're really coming to the end of this waiting period. Not really. We've got the Eight of Swords coming up tomorrow. So that's going to be like some self-sabotage that says, I have to stay in this situation, right? Or this one's saying, hold on, stay here. You're almost done getting what you came for, right? So, you know, this vibe is very much like, you can use the time that you are trying to build something of value, you know, this downtime you get when things start to just roll forward, when things just start to sort of work on their own, right? You've taken initiative, you've put in a lot of sweat and effort, and now, you know, you really just kind of have to wait for things to unfold. While you are paying attention to that, while you are giving that with your, like, all of your intention and your best efforts, this is also a good time when you can be reflecting on the things that you fear, right? Thinking about the things that you fear, thinking about the not avoidance, just sort of like thinking about the lies you tell yourself about yourself, or thinking about the boundaries, the barriers you put up to self-reflection. But also, you know, just allowing those barriers to self-reflection not to get in your way while you're in this waiting game, while you're still working to bring this to fruition. You can reflect on your impatience. You can reflect on, you know, your desire to go do something else and just leave this behind, right? You can reflect on, you know, that inner struggle, and you will, if you stay in it, if you give yourself the time to get to the point where you can say, yes, and I'm only human, and I am certainly not the exception to this rule. So you know, I think that if you can get to the point where you can sort of forgive yourself for having been naive or unkind or, you know, awkward or embarrassing, then you'll get something of great value out of that too. Okay, that your value, your self-value increases when you're able to say, yes, I did that, and I'm not proud of it, but you know, I also was was laboring under an illusion, or I was also just you know, inexperienced, or I was also just, you know, in a lot of pain already, and you know, and that's a human thing to do. And I'm not proud of my actions necessarily, but I'm forgiving myself for it now, because this is something that humans do, right? If you do that, you'll get the value out of it, okay? In fact, the value that you're getting out of the thing that you're building now will be greater because you've learned something about yourself through it. Yeah. All right, friends. Staying the course, hanging in there, taking the time to do some self-reflection and to be kind to yourself, to give yourself nurture, give yourself a little more time and space to grow, you know, give yourself the best possible the best possible circumstances under which you can cast aside your fears and your barriers to self-reflection, so that you can go ahead and do some of that self-reflection and come out the other side feeling better about yourself and having a greater sense of your own value. I think that's all I have to say about it, friends. Thank you so much for joining me. I truly appreciate your presence here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, click the notifications bell if you have not already, and I will see you all in the next video.